Welcome back to City Skylines. My name is Stelio and this is Byerwood. So today I'm going to be working on making a new neighborhood across from the highway. So this will be the first neighborhood buildings and houses that I will be placing south of the highway. Of course, we have two neighborhood areas that I've been working on previously, but this is going to be the first one that's going to be south of the highway. So once again, for these neighborhoods, they're mostly the same buildings as the other neighborhoods that I've been making. So mostly the triple decker and the like Bronx colonial buildings and buildings like that you see in these cities in New York and New England especially. So each building I do individually place, and that's just because I want it to be my touch, and I want to have an input on everything in the city. So that even means placing each building individually. So in these grids, they are pretty grid-like compared to the city overall. So these grids of houses, they could be easily copied and pasted using Move It, but I think the pattern, even if you rotate them, it still gets a little repetitive. So I like to really have my own creative sense, and even sometimes I'll go back through and recolor some of the buildings just because I'm not really satisfied with them. This neighborhood is going to be sort of challenging because of its location. It's placed pretty close to the industrial area, and I need there to be enough space and enough commercial so that people are not living right on top of the train yard, and people are far enough away to where the effects of a train yard don't bother them. So like you see in real life, there's businesses and there's warehouses next to these loud train yards and rail yards, but there are no housing. The housing is further back, and I want to get that same idea again. So there's a lot of building placement. These neighborhoods aren't too exciting, so when I make them in the future, I might not include as much footage of me just placing buildings in the neighborhood, but I want to get the idea of how much time this actually takes. I'm trying to put more transitions and video effects into the video, but it's not really my cup of tea, so it's going to take a little bit to get used to, just like me being on camera, and not on camera, but voice. So I'm trying to get as many YouTube series and YouTube videos under my belt using my voice so that I'm fully comfortable and able to talk to the people and talk to my audience and talk during a video. So it's a process, and I cut a lot of me stuttering out, but I think it's for the better. So a lot of this time is going to be spent connecting the new neighborhood to the existing stuff. So what I'm going to be doing here is placing hotels and pretty large commercial buildings and some other kind of like warehouses and general industrial, and that's basically just going to help fill in the area along this main road, because like I said before, there needs to be the transition from this industrial yard all the way down to the neighborhood houses. So this is all going to be a part of it. So think hotels, commercial, you'll see me place these condominiums. So they're somewhat large buildings, but they're not densely packed, so they do not create a skyline. So the goal I'm going for on this street is somewhat Shrewsbury Street in Worcester, but less restaurants and more just buildings that are somewhat built up but not really densely tight, and they are spread along this one road. So that's what I'm going for here. This is a pretty big episode because of all what I'm doing in here. So one thing is this boulevard that runs down this road. This boulevard here is going to consist of some pretty tall buildings for being outside of the downtown. So without being in the downtown, there aren't going to be tall buildings. So it needs to be in the downtown for it to be pretty tall. But on this street, there are some tall buildings, and that's just because this is a high density street, and even if the buildings aren't densely packed, the street is still very used. So buildings like this can be scattered around, of course. So this all plays into connecting the commercial and industrial areas, and I want to try to make the gradient I'm always talking about look as smooth as possible, and that there aren't too many sharp contrasts from industrial to residential, because that's how it is in real life. Here you see me work on Home Depot. So Home Depot is a pretty popular store, and there's actually one in Worcester, one in Oxford, Mass. So there's a lot of Home Depots in Central Mass, but the one I'm trying to go for is the one that's in Worcester, Massachusetts, and you can see it from 290. So it's a pretty big store because it's, you know, the Home Depot. You can get all types of supplies that you need to pretty much build anything. So Home Depot is a pretty important store, and I think we should have one in the city for sure. Glade Street will need a new name. It's a pretty bad name for a pretty important street in the city, so I don't really want to stick with Glade Street anymore. So if anybody can think of something in the comments, please let me know, because that would greatly help. Besides that, thanks for coming again, and I just want to say have a good day. Bye bye.